The Republican Party is racist as hell. They take their cues from their leader, who is Trump. He is the one who currently leads the Republican Party. Trump has gone after Muslims, gone after Hispanics, and now he's doing, I guess we can call it America's national pastime of going after black folks. Oh, with the help of his Supreme Court. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome for the first time. I'm the host of Just Another Number 17, and look, on today's episode, I got a lot of data points to get to, but just bear with me. It all connects. I'm connecting the dots. Today we're going to be talking about how they're basically redrawing the lines. Let's talk about it. So I want to start this off talking about us, black folks. We make up anywhere between 13.7 and 15.2% of US population. I used to always hear this growing up from my grandmother and other people in my family, like, black folks, man, some of us is everywhere. Black people, we everywhere. And I used to take pride in that. I still do. I take pride in that. But I actually went and looked up the numbers, and yeah, we sort of are everywhere. National and regional distribution. The black population is not evenly distributed across the country. More than half of all black Americans live in the southern United States. The South, 56% of the total black population lives in this region. The Northeast, 17%. The Midwest, 17%. And the West, 10%. So as you can already tell, most black people actually live in the South. Kind of makes sense. Black people don't necessarily like the cold all that much. We kind of like it where it's warm. Although we're not a monolith, I actually know some black folks that actually like the cold. So that's neither here nor there though. States with the highest percentages. These jurisdictions have the highest proportion of black residents relative to their total population. District of Columbia, 41.4%. Mississippi, 37.9%, Louisiana, 33.1%, Georgia, 33%, Maryland, 32%, Alabama, 29.8%, South Carolina, 27.1%. States with the largest total populations. While the South has the highest percentages, several states with large overall populations have the highest total number of black residents. Texas, 3.9 million, Florida, 3.4 million, Georgia, 3.3 million, New York, 3 million, California, 2.3 million. Now, as you can see, out of the 5 on that list, 3 out of 5 are in the South. Texas, Florida, Georgia. Just stay with me. The dots are going to connect if you haven't already connected them yourself. Urban versus rural metro distribution. The black population is heavily concentrated in metropolitan areas nationwide. Roughly 90% of black Americans live in urban or suburban metro counties, compared to about 10% in rural non-metro areas. Urban centers. Cities like Chicago, Cook County, Houston, Harris County, and New York City continue to have some of the largest black populations in the country. Rural concentration. The majority of rural black population is concentrated in the Black Belt, a crescent-shaped region in the South stretching from eastern Texas to Virginia. And just to be clear, just a quick recap on why I'm even doing all of this right now. The latest significant development stems from the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in Louisiana v. Calais, decided in late April, early May 2026. In a 6-3 decision, the court struck down a map that had created a second majority black district in Louisiana, ruling that the map was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. This decision has significantly weakened Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, making it harder for voters to challenge maps that allegedly dilute minority representation. As a result, several states are moving to redraw their maps or have recently finalized new ones specifically for the 2026 midterm elections. So now that we all know where black people live, now that we all know where black people reside in the United States of America, as if we already didn't know, Now, let's take a look exactly where the Republicans are trying to redraw the maps in an election year. States actively redrawing or reverting maps. Following the ruling, several Republican-led legislatures have moved to replace existing court order or compromise maps with more partisan favorable boundaries. Louisiana, after the Supreme Court's decision invalidated the map with the 2 majority black districts, the state suspended its May primaries. The legislature is currently in a special session to adopt a new map that will likely reduce the number of majority black districts back to 1. So of course Louisiana will be number 1. This is where this case originated from. So let's see what other states are trying to, cheat, since the Supreme Court says it's legal to cheat now and redraw maps in an election year. Let's see who else is doing it. Alabama. Governor Clay Ivey called a special session starting May 11, 2026 to replace the court-ordered map used in 2024. The state is seeking to revert to a 2023 map that maintains only 1 majority black district, arguing that the previous court order was based on an interpretation of the Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court has now narrowed. Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee recently announced a special session to redraw the state's congressional districts. The primary target is the 9th congressional district, Memphis, with the goal of breaking up the state's last Democratic-held seat. Mississippi, there is intense pressure from state leadership to call a special session to redraw the district currently held by Rep. Benny Thompson. However, because Mississippi has already held its 2026 primaries, legal experts are debating whether a redraw is procedurally possible before November. So there you go. In plain English, plain text, they are literally going after black seats. They are literally going after black districts. This was very obvious. I'm just pointing out the obvious. I'm just stating the obvious, because there are so many idiots online that keep trying to say that it's not about race when it's clearly, you can clearly see that they're going after black districts. They're not trying to redraw white districts. No, they're not trying to do that. They're going specifically after the black districts, because they said, well, no, these were drawn based on race. But that's exactly what you're doing. You're redrawing the lines based on race. It's oh man, wow. It doesn't fail. The stupidity never fails with these people. It never does. But some states have already finalized their maps. So let's talk about them. States that recently finalized new maps. While some states are in the middle of a redraw, others have successfully pushed through new lines just in time for the midterms. Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a new congressional map on May 4th, 2026. The new lines are expected to favor the GOP in up to 4 additional seats. Texas, on April 27, 2026, the Supreme Court formally upheld a newly redrawn map for Texas, overturning a lower court's finding of racial gerrymandering. This ensures the new lines will be in effect for the 2026 midterms. Virginia and California, in a counter move to the shifts in the South, these states have approved new maps for 2026 that are expected to favor Democrats, potentially netting several seats to offset GOP gains elsewhere. If you're wondering why I'm talking so much about Republicans, because they're the ones who started this bullshit. They're the ones who are constantly talking about someone is cheating, someone is gerrymandering. I mean, both sides do it. Let's not act like this doesn't take place. Both sides do it, right? But Republicans are very aggressive and ruthless with it when they do it. Okay? And if the Democrats want any chance to survive in this political arena, they unfortunately have to play the game. You got to get your hands dirty because they playing dirty. So you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to, roll around in the damn mud like pigs. And, that's a terrible analogy, but it's the same thing. Politics is a low down, dirty game. And in order to survive, you're going to have to play the game, unfortunately. There's no more trying to take the high road, Democrats. There's no more trying to act like you're above the fray and you're better. No, The only way to stay competitive and even win is you basically, I hate to even say it this way, you damn near got a borderline cheat, because that's what the hell they're doing. And it's sad that it has to be that way. It's sad that it has to be that way, because it's like, shouldn't the voters be deciding who the politicians are going to represent us, and not the politicians trying to decide who they want their voters to be? Wow. I mean, this country can't get any more. Yes, it can. I was finna say this country can't get any more backwards, but yes, it can. And I'm pretty sure it will. And I have to add that all of these changes are unprecedented. The maps usually change every 10 years after the census. And unfortunately, these damn Republicans want to gerrymander because of Trump's. It started in Texas because of Trump talking and running his mouth, because he's so worried about losing the midterms. Texas went and jumped and said, no, we're gonna start this early. We're gonna jump mid-decade. We're gonna go above the norms, because when have we haven't been following any damn political norms since this fuckface has been in office. So just jumping completely over political norms, say we're gonna gerrymander mid-decade and try to help the Republicans stay in office. That's what they're trying to do, because they see what's coming. They see the wall. And not the wall that you wanted to be built to keep the Mexicans out, the wall that's going to stop y'all asses from being reelected. Because it's people that are getting tired of y'all. It's the economy, stupid. Who said that? Was it James Carville back in the 90s? I'm assuming it's him. I could be wrong, but I think it's James Carville. It's the economy, stupid. People are going to feel, if they're not already feeling, the effects of when a Republican runs the fucking economy. Every time they get in office, this is the shit that happens. And America just keeps punching itself in the face, shooting itself in the foot by electing Republicans each and every time. I'm not sitting here saying that the Democrats are the best party in the world. Of fucking course not. But every time you put a Republican in office, it's worse for everybody that's not already rich. It's worse off for everybody who don't already got money. This is a fact. This is what I've seen in my almost 40 years of being on this earth. This is what I have experienced. Period. Full stop. It's unprecedented what they're doing. And voters, if you live in any of these states that are redrawing these maps, you really need to stay current. You really need to stay up to date on your voter registration, for one. And you really need to be aware that they may be trying to change polling locations, because they're restructuring these districts. So you really got to stay ahead of the curve. You really got to know where exactly you're going on election day, if you're still planning to vote, if you still think your vote counts for something. You got to know that they're going to try the fuckery. They're going to try these games. And you can't, and I mean you can't, fall victim to it. Knowledge is power. You got to stay ahead of the game on this one. So, after the court did its 6-3 decision and its ruling, they fast-tracked the process. They fast-tracked it. They fast-tracked the implementation of the shit they just decided, which is, again, unprecedented. Under normal circumstances, once the court issues a decision, it waits about 32 days before issuing a certified judgment to allow time for any petitions for a rehearing. However, in this instance, the court granted a request to issue the judgment forthwith, immediately, effectively bypassing the standard waiting period. The goal of the acceleration was to give Louisiana and other states enough time to redraw their congressional maps before the 2026 midterm elections. Midterm election redraws. Because the court issued the judgment immediately, Louisiana can now legally scrap its current map, which had 2 majority black districts, and pass a new one in a special legislative session before the summer. Primary delays. In anticipation of this, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry already moved to delay the state's May primaries until July. The court's move essentially green-lit this last-minute scramble. So here they are. The 6 conservatives on this court are putting their thumbs on the scale to try to help the Republicans maintain power in the midterm elections. Remind you, these are 2 separate branches of government. 2 separate branches of government. But the court wants to get political. The court's been getting political since the year 2000, when basically they decided that Bush was the winner, even though he wasn't. Even though he didn't have the right number of votes, and they stopped the count in Florida. Oh, man. Anyhow, the court, its own co-equal branch of government, is initiating itself or inserting itself into political business. All of the conservatives are just trying to help the damn Republicans. It doesn't get any more obvious than this. So not only are they being political and partisan, but racist at the same time, right? Because I looked up the percentages of the Republican Party. It's anywhere between 79 and 81% white. You know what the percentage of black folks is in that party? 3 to 4%. Hispanics, 11 to 12%. Yeah. Diverse party, right? That's a real diverse party, right? They're a true representation of America, right? Bullshit. Bullshit. And I'm not even done, because I'm about to show you how hypocritical this fucking court is. There's a little something called the Purcell Principle. The Purcell Principle is one of the most influential and controversial doctrines in modern American election law. While it isn't a statute passed by Congress, it has become the Supreme Court's primary tool for deciding whether to allow changes to voting rules or district maps in the months leading up to an election. Here's the historical analysis of how the principle evolved from a narrow procedural rule into a major pillar of constitutional law. The origin: Purcell versus Gonzalez, 2006. The doctrine takes its name from a 2006 case involving an Arizona voter ID law. Just weeks before the election, a lower court blocked the law. The Supreme Court overturned that block, allowing the law to go into effect. In short, unsigned opinion, the court established 2 main concerns: voter confusion. Changing the rules too close to an election could confuse voters and discourage them from participating. Administrative burden. Election officials need time to implement changes, printing ballots, training poll workers. Certain changes can lead to chaos in election administration. Right? The expansion. The shadow docket years, 2014 to 2020. For nearly a decade, the Purcell Principle was rarely cited. That changed in 2014, Vesey v. Perry, and surged during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. As states scrambled to adjust voting rules for the pandemic, extending mail-in deadlines or adding drop boxes. Yeah, I remember that. Dozens of lawsuits were filed. The Supreme Court repeatedly invoked Purcell to strike down lower court orders that sought to expand voting access, arguing that courts should not flip the rules so close to November. Key takeaway from this era: Purcell became a shield for the status quo. If a state law was on the books, Purcell made it nearly impossible for a court to block it within 4 to 6 months of an election. The pivot: Merrill versus Milligan, 2022. A major shift occurred in 2022 regarding redistricting. A lower court ruled that Alabama's congressional map likely violated the Voting Rights Act by diluting black voting power. However, the Supreme Court stayed that ruling, allowing the, quote, illegal, unquote, map to be used in the 2022 midterms. Justice Kavanaugh's concurring opinion expanded the definition of, quote, too close, unquote, suggesting that even several months out might be too late to change the map. This signaled that Purcell could be used to protect maps that were potentially unconstitutional simply because the clock was ticking. Mind you, this was just 4 years ago. The recent paradox, 2024 to 2026. The historical analysis of Purcell has reached a point of high tension. Legal scholars point to the two conflicting ways the court now applies the principle as a barrier used to prevent lower courts from protecting voting rights, stopping a court from ordering a new map, as a discretionary tool, as seen in the recent May 2026 developments with Louisiana versus Calais. The court has shown a willingness to bypass the usual waiting periods or allow last-minute redraws when it aligns with the majority's interpretation of racial gerrymandering. So the Supreme Court been on this type of shit. It already said back in 2022 when the Alabama lower court in Alabama said, hey, wait a minute, these maps is diluting black power, black voting power, black representation. And they stayed that. They stayed the ruling. In other words, they put it on pause. They said, you know what? We're not going to rule on it right now, which means the status quo is still okay. The quote unquote illegal map will be used in the election. The map where black people's votes were diluted. Doesn't it sound familiar? Aren't they being hypocritical here? They didn't rule on it because it was too close of an election. It was too close to the election, I should say. Let's call it what it is, man. It was in Alabama, so they know Republicans control Alabama. They wasn't going to do anything to make it harder for Republicans. That's exactly what this fucking Supreme Court is doing. They're making it so easy for Republicans to be able to just waltz on through. But see, here's the kicker. Here's the thing that you Republicans aren't necessarily thinking too hard about. Even people in your own party are sick of y'all. Y'all are sick of each other. And definitely, there are a lot of voters. There are a lot of your constituents that are sick of y'all asses too. You've done nothing about the affordability crisis. It's like, why the fuck do you want to stay in power if you're not going to do anything to help the people that actually put you there? We're not talking about the donor class. We're talking about the voters. The voters are the ones that put you there, right? If we believe in elections in this country, I'm saying something without saying nothing. If we believe in elections in this country, then why are you not listening to the voters? You've done nothing about the affordability crisis. But yet, your president, your commander-in-chief, wants an additional, what is it? He wants $1.5 trillion for the military budget. $1.5 trillion. Do you know what we could do with $1.5 trillion? If we used it on the American people? We could do healthcare in this country. We could give people free higher education in this country. Get rid of student loan debt. Anyway, I'm veering too far off the course here. The point being is the Supreme Court is corrupt and they're only going to pull for Republicans. Period. They're only going to make the laws to benefit them. And Democrats, if you don't get your shit together, they're basically going to wipe your asses out. Period. I'm not a Democrat, but I lean left. I'm rooting for you all, but you all are not strong enough, apparently. The Republicans are trying to run roughshod over your asses. And they've been doing it for years. We've been calling you weak for years, Democrats. Go to the gym. Toughen the fuck up. Get some muscle mass. Grow a fucking backbone. Jesus. And that, I'm just going to leave it right there. There's a few more things that I can get into, but the video is already over 20 minutes long. So I can come back to that at a different time. In the meantime, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please. I'm begging you at this point. because the trolls, the people who identify as Republicans, the people who don't agree with this message, they're going to severely downvote this video. That's it. They're going to downvote the shit out of it. And the way the algorithm works, if it gets too many downvotes, you won't see it if you agree with this perspective. So if you agree with it, definitely hit the like button. Remember to like, comment, subscribe only if you like the content, as I always say. And remember, when we have the numbers, and I mean when we really have the numbers, we are definitely, indeed, stronger together. When we have the numbers to overwhelm they cheating asses, there is literally nothing that we can't do.